Hello. I love that word. Hello. It's a good greeting word, isn't it?
Definitely.
I am with Tova Galgut, an incredible artist. But something we have to keep in mind is that through her art, she's been able to communicate your thoughts, your feelings, your way of portraying things in your past, because you are the daughter of Holocaust survivors who went through a horrific ordeal in camps, correct? And you're going to tell us your story. I'm so blessed that you're here because you're so beautiful and you're so pretty. And it's really nice to have this beauty in our city of Chula Vista. Before we get started, I hope that you pick up your masks, your Chula Vista masks. I didn't have one on me. Max, go ahead and throw one to me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo! Excuse me, we'll wash it. So these are free. You can get them. Max, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. And if you are interested in a copy of El Sol with Ruth, there's an article about Ruth in this magazine. Everything is for free. And come to the library and tell them you'd like a copy. Hoping that we're going to open soon. This is our best way to communicate how we, as children of Holocaust survivors, communicate. You are probably the greatest communicator through poetry, through art, and with your awareness of not just what happens in San Diego, but throughout the world for anti-Semitism. So Tova, you are a watchdog, and you've really helped a lot of people. So you are a hero, just because you're not afraid to get the word out. Let's talk about your family before we get into the art.
So I'll just give you a quick summary. Hopefully I can be as short as possible. I was born in Israel, November 18, 1955. I have older two siblings. My brother was born in 53, Yitzhak Ruderman. My sister, 54, Hannah Lichtenstein. The three of us were born in Israel, and then my brother Yossi was born in South Africa in 1963. So basically, from my father's side, they were all from Vilna, and only him and his sister, his name was Abba Ruderman, and his sister Chaya Kremer Fink.
Is this them? No.
They were the only survivors out of about 250 family members. And
can I say, is this it?
Yes.
Uh-huh. So this is your father and his sister.
Chaya.
Chaya.
Right. My father was a Russian, he fought with the Russian partisans in the Vilna ghettos. And his grandmother Miriam died in his arms, and the rest of the family either died of starvation, were murdered, or...
She passed away in his arms. Wow.
This is Miriam Kremer, his grandmother, and Aryeh Tzvi, and my father's father. They were both taken into the Panari forest and got murdered and dumped there. We don't have many pictures. So from my father's side, we have these family members.
There we go.
These are some family members. The one here in my left hand is Pessel Kremer, married to Valvo Ruderman, and there's their little son Abba, and Rosala Kremer with her husband. So these are a few pictures that we do have from Vilna, Lithuania, and they were taken from us. So from my father's side, this is my aunt Dodachaya, his sister. This is a picture in Johannesburg, South Africa, at my brother's bar mitzvah. But
what I was going to say about this one, okay?
Yeah. So this is what
to see her with the star this was after. No, this is before.
I'm not sure when that was taken.
But
This
to
is Chaya Kremer, my aunt.
This is your aunt. To see her with this star, and then to see her with the X on her back, I don't see a line down. But again, some had them and some didn't. And it was just a normal piece of clothing. As you could see, this clothing is different. Do you know where the clothing is now?
We don't have anything.
Anything. You didn't.
We
nothing.
have nothing.
How, when she left, when she was liberated, where did she go?
So I just want to show you quickly that this was also a picture. This is her later in life, but that picture of her in. This was found in a book. This is, you can.
Unbelievable. Here she is. If you look at the top of the picture, you can see
Bergen-Belsen concentration camp.
where people passed away. And here you can see her, not feet, but inches from bodies that have perished. That is just, this is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So basically from my father's side, basically what happened was she was very ill with typhus and other, the same lady, Dodachaya, pulmonary and other things, and apparently she was sent to Sweden after the war, and she was recuperating. It took about a year for her to recover, and she found out either through the American Red Cross. There was a lot of organizations that had records of people that were alive, and my father was a decorated Russian soldier in the as a partisan in the forest. He threw away his medals and said, "I didn't survive Hitler to be under Stalin," and he didn't want to have any connection with the Russian army because it was dangerous. And then he somehow went through the Austrian Alps, went to Italy, and then he found out that his sister was alive in Sweden, and so he went to Sweden, and we had family in South Africa. So my aunt Dodachaya went to South Africa, and my father decided to go to Palestine on his own with no family there or anything. And that's from that side of the family. I do want to share a poem. I did an English literature class at San Diego State in 1989, and I drudged out these poems, and I can't believe I wrote it after all these years. But this is the poem I wrote for my dear aunt Dodachaya. I called it 6,000,001. And she never had children, unfortunately. She went to live in Bloemfontein, South Africa. But she was an amazing baker, cook, party planner, beautiful dressmaker. So this is what I wrote about her. I called it 6,000,000 and someone. Dear Dodachaya, we called her Dodachaya. In the cold winters of Vilna, you fiddled over your nest. Zayda curled into a Talmud, your brother Yosela on your lap. You cooked chicken soup with knedlach, lit Shabbat candles, baked honey cake for New Year. Army boots crushed your fingers. Swastika arms opened like umbrellas over your coal stove, a ghetto wall. Mein Städtene Vilna throbbed through yellow jute stars that glowed in your galaxy of ebony rags, barren larder, your frightened Yosela, frostbite and songless birds. You rose from Bergen-Belsen, surrounded by smoldering flesh that reeked through piping chimneys, bodies trapped in barbed wire, goiter eyes suspended on your ashen face, dishwasher soup and green bread, an appetite for your freedom. Your corrugated will was your buttress for survival. I was the daughter of your childless marriage. In the womb of your arms I fell asleep. I watched you bake teglach in the sun, the sweet syrup sticky dripping. Your crochet tablecloths, embroidered chair covers, and floral tapestries adorned your home like doilies on a tea tray. At brother's bar mitzvah, your smile spread like a peacock on your face, pearls on your satin neck, navy lace dress on your buxom body. People swarmed around you like bees to nectar. 1981. The phone rang. A hysterical voice cupped my ear. Tova, I have devastating news to tell you. The numbers on your arm gorged the veins in my flesh. A modern holocaust, your death, my holocaust. May your dear soul rest in peace from your loving niece, Tovela.
1981.
She died in 1981, unfortunately.
You wrote that in
1989. This is another poem that I wrote. It's a rainbow of survival.
I'm going to be crying by the end of this episode.
A shattered soul, a prism of hope refracts a spray of colors. A rainbow arc hugs the dreams of tomorrow. Crimson tears dripped. Raging inferno screamed through smelted bodies. Yellow jute stars stood proud on zebra chests. Evergreen traditions remained ticking on heavy hearts. Blue skies and Israeli flags. Songs whispered through icy limbs and purple lips. Violet flowers blossomed through swastika weeds. Yeah.
Tova, you know, how did your parents say to you that they were in the Holocaust? How did you find out?
Okay, so we really haven't touched from my mother's side, which I quickly want to just say something from my mother's side. So from my mother's family, they were from Ostrowicz, Poland. And basically my mother, her mother, and her two sisters and brothers survived. And their father was shot in front of them, and then they were taken to the camps. And they managed to survive. After the war, they went to a DP camp in Bielsko, Poland. And there was the Kelsey pogroms around, and a lot of anti-Semitism amongst the Polish against Jews after the war. And my mother saw that it was just not a good place to continue living. They thought maybe they could go back to Poland. There was the pogroms, and then near where they were, besides the Kelsey massive pogrom where people were massacred in this building, there was a bomb that was thrown into a Jewish orphanage where my mother was living in Kielsko. And that's it, we need to go. And so my mother found out that their brother Raphael, after being liberated from Auschwitz, went to Belgium also to recuperate, and he lived there. And she found out that he lived in Belgium. So she first went to Belgium, and she learned how to do dressmaking. They called it the gymnasium when they went back. She learned dressmaking, so she always managed to make some money. She met up with Raphael, who was in Belgium, and he had some connections in France, and she was able to speak all these languages. And she was supposed to leave from France around 47, but the ship was cancelled. They stopped it. So she spent about a year hanging out with Raphael, and then she went to Israel. She made enough money, brought her sister over, Bronya, to Israel. Then they worked together and brought over my grandmother. We called her Baba, Sabina Sprinchen Nissenbaum, and Nesha Nissenbaum. And my parents met in Israel and got married and decided to come to South Africa because my aunt Dodachaya was in South Africa, and my father wanted to be with his sister. And we had this family, the Efrons, that lived in South Africa. And Aaron and Ashna Efron, they came to visit us in Israel in 1959 And they said, yes, we will make arrangements for you to come live in South Africa. At the time, with apartheid, there was a lot of anti-Semitism, and he found a way to bribe the Pretoria police commissioner with a few bottles of whiskey, and we came over in 1960 to Johannesburg, South Africa. And so we had the family in, my aunt who lived in Bloemfontein, and we lived in Johannesburg, and my father made a business there. So growing up, my parents did not talk about the Holocaust. Growing up, just as a regular kid going to a Hebrew day school, my parents were busy trying to raise us. They sent us to a private Jewish day school. And they never spoke about it. The only thing I felt I was different was we spoke Yiddish at home. Yiddish was my first language.
Yiddish.
We learned Hebrew in Israel, and maybe a little bit of Hebrew reading the Siddur.
Did you learn to speak Afrikaans?
So we had to learn Afrikaans going to a school in South Africa. You had to learn English and Afrikaans. So I guess Yiddish was my first language, Hebrew was my second partly, then English, and then Afrikaans. So my parents did not want to talk, they never spoke about the Holocaust at all. The only thing I knew is my mom had the number on her
because she
wrist.
was in Auschwitz.
She was in Auschwitz, and they didn't speak about it. And this kind of ties in probably with my art is I never really painted a lot when I was at school growing up. I did a Bachelor of Science, but I was really good at any artistic ventures that were part of a school project. And I did a Bachelor of Science in South Africa, and then if there was any drawings, I always loved nature. And my mother always wore very colorful clothes, and she always wanted the joke of the day. She didn't want to see anything depressing. She loved Barbara Streisand. She loved, anything that was just happy, wanted to go dancing.
Right.
She didn't, it was too painful. So a lot what I have found out really is little snippets of information. She did speak to my older brother, so he's shared some stories, and I got some stories about my father too. But all the stories that I have really is my aunt Bronya, who's here. They moved to Canada, and this is my aunt Bronya and my grandmother, my mother's mother, and that's my daughter Talia.
Even as your mother and father got older, they still didn't talk to you?
Well, my father died tragically in 1981 in a car accident. So he died he was at 56. And then my aunt, the same year, was run over in a car accident. No, this Todachaya. This one. So the two survivors, my father and his sister, both died in car accidents in 1981, a few months apart. So they survived the Holocaust, but they were tragically killed. So that was 1981, so there wasn't time.
To hear that. You survive the Holocaust, and then with a freak accident,
both of them,
they're killed.
Separately, within a few months apart. So there was no time to really talk to them.
She was the one that's in this photograph,
right,
with the X on the back.
Yeah, but in 2000, I used to go visit my aunt and family, Bronya, in Canada, and my uncle Raphael lived there too. And
come on back and get close to my mic.
Anyways, that's Raphael at my graduation. He was in South Africa too. So anyway, he in 2006 My Aunt Bronya started telling me all of her story all of a sudden.
So she started telling
So I
you.
know her story, which I won't get into now. It's another episode. So I
Okay.
know from her, she told me stuff from 2006 and 2007.
I want people to understand that as a second generation Holocaust survivor, we're in our 60s now. We have our photographs, dress, items, keepsakes from our family that really make us. Example, you have this cup and you have a compact. And it's not the cup and the compact. We could go to a store and buy one, it's no biggie. But these were the things that made your mother happy, correct? These
Correct.
were things that helped you, that you saw color, and the next thing you know, you decide to dive into being an artist, and your art pieces are like your poetry. They're your words through the art that you do. And I'm telling you, as God is my witness and Ruthie's over me, Tova, we have to figure out how we're going to leave a legacy. I've tried really hard in Chula Vista, and just like surviving and getting through this, we're now with COVID, trying to figure out what we're doing. But you have items, I have items, the whole community has items, and we have to figure out what we can do for our legacy. I want to focus more on you, that you didn't know much, but being that you're the product of your mother and father, you had a gift that allowed you to do the art that you do and your expression. Example, on Max, go ahead and move over to this painting over here. Tell me about this.
Okay, so
Tell me about this.
I did grow up in South Africa from 1960 to 79, and I grew up in apartheid. So basically, I had this background of being Jewish, knowing about what my parents went through, and then coming to live in South Africa in 1960 and being raised with apartheid. And this was influenced by, there was a famous musician called Johnny Clegg. And as a young boy, he illegally used to go into Soweto and dance with the Zulus and the blacks. And he was this amazing musician. And they called him the White Zulu. And he died a few years ago. I'm a very emotional painter. So I paint if something inspires me in a good or bad way, of a circumstance or something in nature or an event. So this is showing a black girl holding up a butterfly, which is a symbolic of freedom, and the slash across apartheid, and the white Zulu, and Mandela, who was very instrumental in breaking the shackles of apartheid, and Johnny Clegg, rest in peace. So I painted this around the time when Johnny Clegg died a few years ago.
Wow.
I can read you a poem about apartheid.
Remember, your mic is here, so when you're over here, we hope that we can get what you said.
So this is called the
Come on over here, Tova. There
the
you go.
Tokolosh of apartheid. The light of dawn peeks through the curtain of darkness. A ringing alarm startles your aching bones. You rub your eyes with knobby knuckles. With a body like lead, you lift a metal bucket and walk outside to the garden hose. Standing naked in your room, you soap yourself with a cloth dipped in freezing water. You reach for the green uniform and white apron hanging on a rusty nail on a faded whitewashed wall. Sitting on the bed, propped on 4 brick legs, you lift a broken mirror from the cardboard box table. You wrap a duk scarf on your head and smooth Karoo cream over your face. You get up to face the chores of the day. You leave the room with its brick walls, wavy aluminum lid, and a 2x2 window naked to light and dark. You relieve yourself in a doorless toilet and wipe with pieces of newspaper. You wash your hands from the garden hose and walk towards the kitchen door of the white mansion. Crimson bougainvilleas garnish the stucco walls. A BMW, Jaguar, Mercedes adorn the driveway. A sea blue pool and grass-shaven tennis court span the backyard. This house inside is a museum of Persian rugs, crystal chandeliers, ivory statues, and designer clothes. Your baby you left behind in your homeland cries out for the warm milk in your ripe breasts, a familiar heartbeat, a cradle of your maternal arms. Instead, you feed your white madam's baby with powdered milk, with a face of blossoming rosy cheeks and milky white teeth. The baby you see sheds tears of thirsting hunger. You nestle the baby to the curve of your back whilst yours kicks convulsively with spindly arms for a motherly hug. When I was about 7 years old, I asked you, Nanny Maid, why your bed was on bricks. You answered that the black people believe in the tokolosh. It's a big, ugly bug which crawls under your bed at night, and with the bed on bricks, it can't scare me and catch me. I remember telling you at night to sleep tight and not let the tokolosh bite. As a child, I sniggered about it, but today it's different. I see how the tokolosh called you a girl and made you wash piles of dishes and soil clothes, oil teak wood and sparkle the silver, fry fish and grill chicken, prepare artichokes and caviar. Worst of all, you stood attention like Pavlov's dogs to a table bell rung with manicured hands.
Wow, Tova, how amazing that you can paint, you write, you're able to project. And it's interesting because when I look at this painting, when I hold up this painting, yeah, would you think that they're the same painter?
Well, this was inspired. I have a school friend that lives in Australia, and she helps with the conservation of orangutans that are being killed because of the palm oil trees. Mm-hmm. So that inspired me to paint that. And I just love nature, I love animals. So this is my baby O. When I heard all the work she does to go and rehab these orangutans, and I love my fellow primates. So my art really is a reflection of color and positivity, butterflies, the color of freedom and transformation that you can always survive.
Mm-hmm. You were so wonderful that when we opened the exhibit, that you had 2 paintings that you donated for our auction, and they flew out of here. I mean, they just flew out. People were just wanting your work. Where are you displaying now?
I don't.
Okay.
So basically
you do a lot of different entries.
Right. So I have a little day spa, and basically I do massages, facials, waxing. We were closed for
really
6 months, and I just started back at work. So my art is really a side fun vocational thing. It's a release. So I joined the San Diego Watercolor Society, and I joined the Foothills Art Gallery, and I joined, I entered in some shows at the Ashton Gallery. So the last few years, I said, let me take my art to another level, and I started taking a lot of workshops, and I like mixed media, watercolor, acrylic, collage-y stuff, and I set it aside, and then when I'm motivated, I'll paint. So I had my own personal show at the San Carlos Library 10 years ago, and then last year I had a show at Nansuk framing an art in La Mesa at Roz Ozeron's frame shop and little gallery. And then I just enter these shows, and sometimes I post on Facebook and Instagram. People like it and will ask
Tova,
if they want to
somebody
purchase.
wanted to purchase a painting
I'm on Instagram.
on Instagram,
I'm on Facebook, but
Okay.
you just
Tova
call me,
Galgut.
Tova Galgut.
Okay.
You call me. But I wanted to go back quickly and just say where I am today and where I'm going.
Well, that's what
with-
I was going to ask you.
okay.
Where are you today, and where are you going with the world that you're in after what we've just been through on our own, and with what you have in your past history?
Right. So I always felt I wanted to do something, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, how I can contribute
Come on over here and talk to
to
my mic.
remember the past of my family, and to remember what happened to the Jews and the genocide of people. And a few years ago, I joined the San Diego Generations of Shoah, which is our group. And so I joined them, and then I found out about the Butterfly Project. So I've used part of that where we paint butterflies at schools. And then I didn't really have, coming to America in 1979, I didn't have any grandparents growing up. My father died at a very young age when I was in my 20s, and I became very good friends with Harry Rosen. So we adopted each other, and since 2009, we have cared for each other like a father and a daughter, and he's become part of our family. And through him, the way he lives and the way he is and the things he says, and because my parents didn't really speak about it, I learned by their behavior and what they did. And they set an example to me to, first of all, be very proud of being a Jewish person, be very proud of who you are, be very proud of your family. And family is number one. Take care of your family. And to never forget. They never forgave what they did to them. And that was their thing. And I respect that. We couldn't have anything German. No cars. They would look at labels if it was made in Germany. So they were very hurt, resentful, could not deal with it. And so I just feel they gave me such a solid foundation, and I want to remember
They taught you to have a voice. If there's something that
to
you
be a
don't
voice.
like, you know how it's
I
totally
was
you how
the
to get the
voice,
voice out there.
and so I involved myself in. Now we have a movie club as well, where we discuss Holocaust movies. And actually, over the past 30 or 40 years, I collected all information about the family. And you, when I came over to your house, and I was one of the first people that saw your movie, and I said, where did you get all this information from about your mom? You gave me the email of the Orelson archives. And I contacted them right away. It took them a year, and I got all the information that was possible. But now you can email them, and they'll give you the information.
Sure.
Their database is more efficient. So thanks to you, I got a lot of information while you got information from them. And because I didn't work, I took this box of all these little pieces of paper and all the information I got from the Orelson, and I learned a lot about the story, which when I retire, I will be writing a book with all this information.
Writing a book is fun. It'll be just like you are pregnant and you have to nurture your book and you keep at your book, and then finally when you produce your book, you can't give up.
Right.
You just can't give up. You just keep going with it.
So what I want to, my important thing is to educate me of what happened, and there's just so much to know.
I can only imagine the colors and the artwork that you're going to have on your cover. I can only imagine it.
And I just want to thank you. And I just want to make sure my children know, my grandchildren will know, and to pass the word on that there's no room for hate. We should all love one another. And we do want peace on earth. And it's not just a Jewish story, it's a humanity story that's going on around the world, that we should all be good to each other, kind to one another, and not to have this discrimination
either.
Right.
And we shouldn't allow people to hurt us. I mean, that's a huge thing. It's very easy to have a difference of opinion and to respect somebody's opinion. But when somebody starts throwing daggers, what I find is there's a certain point that you can throw. But after a while, your skin toughens up and you just say, you're forgiven, but you've got to be out of my life.
Right. So my parents taught us to give charity. My father was actually truly colorblind. He didn't see color.
Oh my gosh.
And he treated the best he could. He had his own factory. And he treated his employees so well. He had coloreds, blacks, from every race you can think of working for him. So they taught us to be very kind, to give charity, to treat everyone well. And this is one of the reasons why we came to live in America, because they said this is the golden Medina. Mm. And we had family and friends that finally we were able to come live in the United States.
Did you know your mother's number?
Yes. This is testimony that my mother had actually written, and it's in the Ostrovich site on Facebook. And it was a lady in Israel that took Holocaust survivors' stories, and I don't have the actual lady who took this, but this is what it was translated from Hebrew. So my mother's name was Regina Nissenbaum Ruderman. This is in her own words. It is difficult to describe the anguish and the suffering seeing people shot dead, amongst them my father. We were constantly hungry, frightened, and facing death. Auschwitz was the hardest experience. I saw women running in desperation to the electric fences, and this way they died rather than face the torch of the Nazis. I was shivering in winter from cold and constantly starving. I cannot write the details of all the experiences because I know I will get sick from all the horrors. I saw people beaten, humiliated, and suffering. I slept on the bare floors of the ghetto and never had a pair of shoes that fit and no warm clothes. I face death daily, and I still have nightmares and cry many times when I recall what happened. I lost my grandmother, my uncles, aunts, and cousins. My Auschwitz number that was branded into my left forearm is A46999. My father's jewelry shop was looted by the Nazis, and the value of the content was approximately 100,000 Polish zlotys, 1942. My father bought a property to put a building there, and the property was confiscated, and it was 3 Nova Ostrovich, Poland.
Tova, I'm speechless. You have a responsibility. I have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to get this out. Yes. It's up to the schools. It is up to educators that we continue telling the story. And it's important for first generation Holocaust survivors. Come on over, Harry.
I am here.
It's important for first generation Holocaust survivors to know what the second generation is going to do to get the word out. Tova, how many times have you told your story like this?
Not much.
Not much. Come on over here. Not much. And here we are. Here we are with 97-year-old Harry Rosen, who survived. My mother, who survived. Tova's family that survived and tragically killed in 1981 because of a car. And we just have to keep going. We look at things, I don't know if you're this way, but it's the small things that sometimes I can't deal with because they're just so small. And yet if something was huge, like we've had this fire in East County, or we've had, when God forbid we had riots, I mean, we learn how to come out of our shell. And yet if something is small, like God forbid the egg breaks, I can't deal with the egg breaking in the kitchen, I can't deal with the fact that when the garbage bag has a hole in it, it's like, yet when it's something like this, I believe it's my parents who taught me, not by telling me, but it's almost like an osmosis. You can almost lay at night and think, what would have happened if I would have been in that situation? So once again, I say that what you've done makes you a hero because you dug deep in your soul and you told your story. Harry?
Thank you.
Same with you.
And the world, even if people went through that time, the world did not care much. The world itself. There were some people, there were.
And it's interesting because I focus on this city, on Chula Vista. I can't think of a better place, even during COVID times, that I can come here, be with my mom, be in the park. I mean, I am spoiled when I'm in here because I'm in a place where I can get the word out and continue getting the word out. So for me, I'm lucky. If I were in a different city, I don't think I could do this, Tova.
Well, I just want to say how lucky I feel knowing you. I knew your mom very well, and Max used to bring Ruthie to all the New Life Club luncheons, and we always used to sit together at the table. And you created this amazing museum, and thanks to you, you are documenting people's stories in some way or another, that at least the future generations will have some kind of proof that this really happened. Because that is the problem. As we get into the third, fourth, fifth generations, what are they going to believe anymore?
Yeah.
So you are doing an amazing job.
I haven't
and
even
thank
begun.
You for everything that you do.
I cry because I haven't begun. I haven't been able to do what I want to do, but I will tell you the fact that when you're in a library like this, between Joy Watley, who's our city librarian, we've got the most amazing mayor who loves you, and before COVID, I know you guys were hugging and kissing.
Not kissing, hugging.
Hugging, okay. and the fact that there's so many people to thank our city manager that she allows us, Maria Kachadorian, my co-host when we're working together, Harry Orgavan, Cesar Castro, our president, allowing this to happen. It's huge. It's huge, and I guess we're blessed. I think we're blessed.
We are blessed.
We're
yes,
blessed.
Yes.
Yeah, we are blessed.
But unfortunately, anti-Semitism is still blooming around. People, when I was working here in Chula Vista, this I have to tell you. They used to tease me. They were not, they were, that was in them.
They were stupid.
No, sure.
They're stupid.
And,
what you don't know,
but
and this is what we have to teach.
What
if
one
you don't know somebody, don't bully them.
Yeah, but
you don't bully them.
remember, when I said my son is going to college, they say I'm crazy. Why don't you bring your son to work here? I said, no, I want my son to be educated like all the Jewish parents are doing. That's why they're professionals. But you bring your son to work here, and on the weekend, when we get our check, you're going to the bar. You call me to the bar, but I go home first to bring my check home. Yeah, you are henpecked.
Wow. Wow. Amazing.
No, I worked like this for almost 30 years.
30 years.
30 years.
Did you ever tell anybody how you felt when you were working?
No, who will listen?
Who's going to listen?
I was the only Jew on the floor.
Here in Chula Vista?
Yeah, the engineers on the thing, they were a few Jews.
But when you were working, it was a great job, yes?
Oh, yes.
You loved it?
I loved it. I still get a check every month.
Yeah, your pension. Amazing. Once again, I say that what you've done makes you a hero because you dug deep in your soul and you told your story. Harry?
Thank you.
Same with you.
Thank you.
And with that, we say thanks for watching.
Oi, oi, Gott ist größer, hat doch gewünscht mein Häuser, die mir sind gegeben, ich Häuser, die mir sind gegeben, die mir sind gegeben. Starker, fröhlich, ich die Malke, du der